So it's pretty crowded there, and sometimes it's good if you have a pack like this and you can just scan each pack. But sometimes it looks like that. And how do you scan this? You have to take it apart completely, and this takes a whole lot of time. And this is just a simulation example, and you see this is a discontinuous process. You can start, scan a few boxes, then you have to unpack the next bundle, then you have to open up a box again, and sometimes there's a box and a box and a box. So it takes an awful lot of time, and we just summarized this. We found that eventually there was no difference between goods in and goods out with respect to additional time needed for conducting this process. This does not include any delays in data transmission, of course. So it's just single scanning procedure. And so we came up with a number of 2.1 seconds that it takes per pack to scan this. And we were pretty fast. I heard the Austrians had done a similar study and they came up with 10 seconds. So, but I had young ladies helping me here. So if I just do the math, I come up with this 3.8 million packs. Not all of them are prescription packs. So we end up with like 2.6 million packs. And if we multiply this with 2.1 seconds, we end up with a fairly high number of 1,500 hours per year, which results in 1 to 2 full-time equivalents that do nothing else but scan, scan, scan. And, well, of course, we also need something to scan with, and how can we connect to the service? Well, all hospitals in Germany do have an inventory management software, and some of them have been very early adopters, like SQData, that had provided the software already 2 years ago. Others had been a little bit slower. SAP, which is one of the biggest provider of inventory management software, didn't have anything at all. They refer to consulting bureaus, which costs a whole lot of money. Others don't have anything at all as yet. And some, they say they have something. Well, I'm a very techie kind of guy. I thought, well, do we need all this? This is very costly. Can we have something else, like a Google-like solution or something like that? I can tell you there is a number of providers now out there that have cloud-based, web-based, or standalone solutions that can support us with that. Well, of course, we have a wish list, and since there are some pharmaceutical companies present here, we don't like this. When we did scan this, it breaks your fingernails, at least the ones that did this job. I don't understand why a company does like that. Most of the wards actually order 25 of these ampules, but if you have to take out every single ampule, it really is obnoxious. And so we would like to have this. This is something easy to scan, and actually it's on the top. I much rather like it from the top because we tested camera systems that can do it from above. However, this box is actually a double layer box. You have to unpack it again. So I was really sort of unhappy about this solution. So maybe single layer boxes can help. Aggregated codes. We already heard about this. Yes, it is possible to verify and decommission multiple codes with aggregated codes. And this has been published in 2016 already. But unfortunately, we know that neither the EMVO database nor the national systems have been designed to process aggregated codes. And I don't know how long it's going to take, probably never. Thank you. Well, so maybe there is a workaround, and this is just almost the last slide I have. So we were working with a couple of pharmaceutical companies to find a workaround and say it's very simple. So when a pharmacy orders at the pharmaceutical company has already uploaded their codes, and it's in the EMVS and the NMVS at some stage. And once the order has been placed, of course, the product is being made ready for distribution, and during that time, the serial numbers can be registered either in the warehouse of the pharmaceutical company or by the logistics provider, whoever does it better. And once the goods are sent to the pharmacy, we'll send the receipt back to the pharmaceutical company. And in turn, they will send us an electronic shipment device, which we can upload into our software. And of course, this has been done in an encrypted manner. And by using this mass decommissioning, we can verify and decommission a lot of packs at the same time. Why is this important? Look at this. This is when we use cytotoxic drugs, and we have more than 120,000 boxes per year in our cytotoxic compartment. We don't want to have any scanner there. We don't want to have the guy who unpacks the boxes to scan each of these drugs, because they're often contaminated on the outside. So we don't want to scan in here, because this might actually cross-contaminate boxes, and we don't want this. So is it actually allowed, what I just proposed? Well, apparently it is. This has been published in February last year. And yes, the hospital can use such information without physically scanning the packs. And we did a pilot, which was organized by the German Association of Hospitals, and it worked beautifully, actually. We managed to scan just a single pack and then receive the remainder of the serial numbers, and then I was able to verify the 154 packs in 7 seconds time, and the decommissioning another 7 seconds time. So if you're still awake, then you remember 2.1 seconds time 140 packs. That would result in 5 minutes total time. Now we're ending up at 14 seconds. That would ease the pain a little bit. So we're hoping that this is something that can be done in the near future, and we're just inviting pharmaceutical companies to offer this additional service, and there is quite a few companies that are willing to do so. Well, there are a number of open questions still in the out. We don't know whether the service will be capable to process this high density of data transmitted at the same time by the hospitals. We'll just see that. Right now, my experience is pretty good. So we haven't seen very few failures so far. There was a brief dropout at the German NMVO, but other than that, it worked nicely. We still don't exactly know how to separate serialized from unserialized packs. So we still have like a couple of thousand boxes that will come in every day that are still released by the manufacturers prior to the 9th of February. Then we still don't know what's the optimal way. Will it be a web-based solution? Will it be a standalone solution? All right. And we have quite a few questions regarding different pathways that are exempt from the regular pharmacy pathway. And the last thing, we are still unsure how to deal when we are actually delivering drugs to a hospital that is another healthcare institution, because that is not really described in the delegated regulation. And our pharmacy provides medicines for no less than 16 other hospitals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Martin. You really packed in a great deal of very, very interesting information there, and clearly you're presenting the hospital fraternity with some very interesting solutions there. So I'm hoping in the future that there ought to be some sort of forum whereby this kind of very useful and hard work and complex work can actually be shared, with the possibility of other hospitals taking up these solutions. So thank you, Martin. You covered a great deal there. I appreciate it very much. So I think we now move to Agnes. If you'd like to if you could go up to. So we're now going to hear the view from Deputy Head of the Unit on the Quality, Safety and Innovation of Medical Products, DG Santé, Agnes Mathieu Mendes. Thank you very much, Agnes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Faria, for your kind invitation, and thank you, Mike and Laura, for organizing this event. I'm very pleased to be here and to give an update on the situation for the introduction of the falsified medicine directive. But let me start by reminding that the entire legislation has been launched due to a number of serious incidents of fake products that we had in the legal supply chain in the EU. And I think it's an important message also that I would like to tell to those who say, I have never had any incident in my hospital. This message is very dangerous because experience shows that we have had a number of serious incidents. I can just mention the heparin case, which affected a number of European member states. We had also a few years ago the Herceptin case, so fake products to treat breast cancer. We had also a number of Interpol operation who showed that every year a number of fake product, fake falsified medicine are seized at customs, and also Interpol hundreds of illegal websites. So I must admit that we have to be prudent because there is a serious public health concern with falsified medicine, and EU is not preventing from those serious incidents. We had also recently the Lunar Farm case where product was stolen and introduced in parallel traders in Germany. We receive also notification from the national competent authorities on a regular basis, highlighting fake product in the legal supply chain. So overall, I would like to say that falsified medicine can harm patients. It can affect also the confidence in the entire distribution chain of medicine in the EU. It's not EU problems that I agree that it's a problem that affects all the region of the world. And you may also be aware that the EU is not the only continent which is trying to introduce an authentication system. The US launched also a serialized pack last November. We had other third countries who are introducing similar system. So it's a global problem, and this problem should be addressed globally as well. It's an illegal activity, so for sure it's very difficult to tell you from the Commission perspective the exact number of incidents that we had in the legal supply chain. We cannot track that. But I can already tell you that just in the Commission, we received 400 notifications of falsified incidents in the EU just between 2013 and 2017. And just last year, for example, with the Interpol operation, we had nearly 7 million euros of counterfeit medicine seized at borders. So overall, it explains why the European institution wanted to have a directive. I will try not to repeat what was said before. So you know that the directive was adopted in 2011. We had many actions in this directive. We had the safety features that we are discussing today, but we had also measures to reinforce the distribution chain, to have stricter rules for distributors. We have also introduced stricter rules for API manufacturers. Those are producing in China, India, in all third countries. We have also introduced stricter rules for online sales of medicine. But basically, the safety features is the last part of the puzzle, which will allow to complete our action at EU level to fight falsified medicine. Even though the directive was adopted in 2011, it's only in 2016 that we defined the technicalities of the safety features. So since 2011, a decision has been made to have safety features on all prescription medicine, but it's true that it's only in 2016 that we provided to hospitals, to pharmacies, the technicalities. Who should check how the safety features looks like? But overall, I must admit that between 2011 and now, we have had 8 years for all actors to prepare. And even though we know that there are a lot of costs associated with the introduction of the safety features for all actors in the supply chain, we have decided to have this long implementation period to make sure that all actors can introduce the changes into the digitalization of their supply chain. So for industry, that when they update or upgrade the manufacturing line, they can integrate this change in the normal supply chain. For the pharmacists, we knew that most of them had only, for example, the 1D scanner. We believe that between 2011 and 2019, there will be this change of scanners, because we knew already in 2011 that there will be a need to scan the product at the end of the supply chain. For hospital, we also knew that the hospital didn't have the scanners in 2011, but it's true that the digitalization is now a buzzword. It's also where we are all going with the stock management and the digitalization of all procedures everywhere. So we were relatively confident that all actors will be able to prepare and get ready for the time of implementation. So as it was said before, it's not a track and trace system, it's rather an end-to-end verification. It's true that it's unique in the world, because it's not very common that you have a 2D barcode that is checked at the end of the supply chain. At the same time, it's the only way to get the best outcome, because if you check at the end of the supply chain, you have the best security to make sure that you can track and identify the falsified medicine. And it is where the actors, the hospital pharmacists and the community pharmacists, have an important role to play here by decommissioning to have the full benefit of the system. Andreas showed this slide before, so it's based on the system is based on a European hub with the national system. The Commission in the EMVO is just an observer, but we follow a lot the discussion, and we try as much as we can to facilitate the discussion. We are very pleased that the hospital pharmacist and hospital pharmacy are represented also in the EMVO board now, because it can facilitate the discussion between the stakeholders. Last October, we realized that the level of awareness was not sufficient, that we needed to outreach still a lot of actors. So we decided with the head of medicine agency and EMA to send a letter to the stakeholders. So we send an email to more than 2,000 marketing authorization holders to increase awareness. We ask also the member states to approach the wholesalers and the pharmacies to remind them their obligation, because I must say it has been a collective exercise. It's not something that can be done by one single person, but it is something that, that can be successful if we have everybody on board. So we send a letter in October to remind the obligation of all stakeholders, including pharmacy, with their obligation to ensure the decommissioning. I just check because I have to speed up a little bit. As regards the hospital, yes, we remind the verification. During these last 3 years, we have also worked with the national competent authorities to draft a question and answer document to clarify the expectation of authorities. We have also had a discussion on aggregation, even though already at the time of the delegated regulation, we had the discussion on aggregation. And it was very clear from the beginning of the discussion that aggregation would have increased the cost of the entire system. And it's the reason why aggregation was not tackled in the delegated regulation. More recently, last year, we have set up a subgroup of member states to try to investigate if there is any possibility to facilitate the decommissioning by hospital. And so this subgroup issue a paper on a recommendation how we can have not a system of aggregation through the hub, but a system of data file that was explained and presented before by Germany, where we could facilitate the decommissioning by hospital, but under certain safety checks. So it's not that we have issued a paper offering a possibility of aggregation. We have put on the table certain options to have data files with a number of security checks that should complement the system of data file. Nevertheless, the aggregation through the hub, it was very clear from the stakeholders that it will not be possible to have that before 3 or 4 years. And there are reasons for that. We are launching an enormous system now, a big machinery. It's very premature to ask again the stakeholders to put more money on the table, to upgrade again the manufacturing lines, and to upgrade again the European database. So this question of aggregation to the hub will take place, but I think we have to be realistic, and it will not be possible between 3 or 4 years. So it's important that when hospitals are looking for aggregation, they have to look through a system of data files with the suppliers, the wholesalers, where they procure the medicine. So we have issued a question and answer to help and facilitate the implementation of the rules. Just in terms of status of implementation, I would like also to say that we are 10 days after the implementation date. I'm very pleased to say that the European hub functions properly. There are some technical problems that we are discussing with the NCA and the stakeholders to make sure that the problem is up and running successfully. We have try to maintain the discussion as much as possible open with the member states to be able to react to any possible question like the alerts or having problems with the upload of data, and we will continue to do that. The national database are connected. The connection to the end user, it's in progress. I think I'm relatively confident that all stakeholders are working to be ready. I will not say that they are all ready. From industry side, we have good signal that the majority of them are well prepared. From the end user, from the community pharmacy, it's also very positive. There are some exceptions. And for hospital, it's true that it's where we are hoping to see more progress in the coming weeks. But we hope that awareness is there. And I think you heard earlier with the example in 4 member states that it varies a lot between the member states. But overall, everybody is working to be ready. So we have no major issue. I think from our perspective, the falsified medicine has the biggest objective to offer safer medicine for the European patient. It will facilitate the identification of falsified, expired, recalled medicine once the system is fully operational, because you heard that at this moment there is a period of stabilization. We are launching the big machinery. It means that member states have showed some openness for those who are not ready. But once the system will be completely operational, then we will get full benefits of the system. We have reminded the obligation of stakeholders, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to help if there are questions. I heard earlier the question on the emergency dispensing. We are very open to discuss with NCA practical solution. We have already said that you can decommission at the entry in the hospital, or at the end, it's you have to choose what is the best. We are also prepared to discuss how to decommission just after the emergency dispense. And finally, I think we have to continue to work all together to make sure that everybody continue its hard work to be ready on time.
Thank you very much, Agnes, for speeding up at the end. I really appreciate it. We are literally out of time, but I am going to open up the floor for some questions. But I am going to suggest the 3 people that wanted to make an intervention, that so that's Philip, Marion, and Oksana. We video you afterwards. Would that be all right, just for a couple of minutes, and then you can be part of the programme properly. Otherwise, we just will run out of time. So if that's okay, we'll meet outside with the video chap there. So I'd like to open it up to the floor now for any pressing questions.
2 questions.
And if you could, 2 questions, if you could state who you are, please, and who you represent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Johan Verhagen with Medicines for Europe, representing the off-patent sector, so biosimilars, generics, and value-added medicines. Thank you very much both for the organization of this event. Very insightful. Thanks for the information. It was very educational. Throwing around a little bit of numbers, we have seen some from the different countries, and to be honest, I'd rather make a remark and an open question overall than just a specific question. But so there are, in Finland, 70 million packs. In Europe, there are roughly 15 billion. Our sector represents 70% of those medicines. So we have seen a lot of impact on our sector due to this legislation, which at the same time we are very happy to support, as in indeed patient safety is the objective at heart. When this legislation was being drafted, we advised and we provided some feedback to the information to the impact on the sector. And as Andreas mentioned, we went from an estimated 2,500 to an estimated 1,600 companies in Europe.
Could we have your question? Could we have your question, please?
Yes, I'll cut to the chase. A slide by Mr. Hug said what we want. And I think that's not the best option to approach it. So let me tell you what we want is an open mind from the different parties coming to the table, discussing options such as aggregation, use of data for whatever reasons. So my open question is to all, please come to the table with an open mind to discuss and cooperate on solutions at hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will, surely. And here, Parliament, I'm sure we will. Another question, then we'll see who's going to, yeah, please.
So at first, I would like to thank EAHP and the colleagues from the national level. It was a very good introduction, and I'm so delighted when I see what is happening in Wales, UK. Both are still together, hope so, and Spain and France. But I have to behave a little bit myself because we are now 10 days after the deadline, and all our colleagues from the hospital sector are trying to get into this game and to be compliant. What I'm a little bit surprised, and this is my personal opinion, Professor Hook, I heard your presentation already months ago in summer at BfArM. I'm a little bit surprised that the Deutsche Krankenhausgesellschaft is still discussing pro and cons of the FMD, like and dislike, only asking questions, and there are no feasible solutions you are presenting. So I think it is clear from the legislation that aggregation is not in the system, and I join Johan, that we are open to discuss that. I do not know where the Commission is coming from with 3 or 4 years. We want to do that in a controlled way. What I'm disappointed is that the Deutsche Krankenhausgesellschaft is still asking questions. We invite you to come to EMVO or to SecoFarm. We have all your answers. Yeah, I have to say that because this is unfortunately an example why in some countries we are still not there where we are. And the examples we are there today. I'm very happy that this is going through, and I'm still confident that also my home country will follow.
Well, I think it's more suggestions. It's more suggestions really than the replies. But if you have 30 seconds, not more than that.
Well, it's very simple. I'm not a representative of the German Hospital Society, so that's very simple.
Mike, would you give some closing remarks, and then I will.
Because we are so pressed for time, we have 1 minute. I'd just like to thank all the speakers and for the support that MEP Farah has given. And I'd also like to thank the members that comprise patient organisation and life science companies such as BD, Sanofi, Novartis, to name just a few. Without their support, this kind of meeting could not happen. So thank you to our members of the Eaasm for doing that. And I'd like us to make a special thanks also to Lara, who has really organised all of this meeting. She's done a tremendous job, and I think you'll agree that it's been a really excellent programme. Thank you.
Well, Well, I think that thanks have already been given. It's just to tell you that the FMD has been a strong pillar, but it will only work if we put good use to it, and that's why we have these meetings, and we will have more. But unfortunately, really, time is run out, and because Mike talks too much. No, thank you very much, everybody. It was very interesting, and we have this on film. So I hope that you all smiled, because we are going to take this down and perhaps make a what do you call it, a report on the meeting and then send it to you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks a lot.
So if there are three people who would like to make that intervention, have we time, we will just need you either stay not in this.
Well, I'm Philip de Buck. I'm from the Belgian Competent Authority. And so of the things that I recall from this afternoon as best practices, there is collaboration and the use of the Falsified Medicines Directive for more than just verification of medicinal products. So in Belgium, we've been very happy that the rollout for hospital pharmacists has gone very well. And as regards to the future, a lot has been said on aggregation. And I think with hindsight that to make this a success, that good collaboration is essential. We've seen in the elaboration of the Falsified Medicines Directive that it's quite easy to get somewhat entrenched, but I think that for the future, if we want to have aggregation really worked out to the full, that everyone will have to reach out and start to collaborate in earnest and start to aim for really concrete results in order to get there.
Dear all, thank you so much for Mr. Faria and Mike and Laura for hosting this event. It's been a very interesting afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Fight the Fakes. For those of you who haven't heard about Fight the Fakes yet, it's a global campaign to raise awareness about the dangers of falsified medicines on a global level, and to put the issue of falsified medicines on the global health agenda. And I'm also very happy to see some of our partners here today, because we are a global umbrella organization of 37 partners who represent various stakeholders along the supply chain. So for example, nurses, doctors, pharmacists, manufacturers, and wholesalers. And falsified medicines represent a great threat to patients' health, but they also have broader implications. So they add to the problems of antimicrobial resistance, they create mistrust in health systems and healthcare professionals, and they also constrain resources. And we've seen the EU has taken remarkable measures to fight fake medicines with the FMD. But there's still a lot more that needs to be done on a global scale, because globally 1 in 10 medical products are fake, and the heaviest burden is in sub-Saharan Africa and in Asia, and particularly antimalarials are often falsified, and it's estimated that up to 30% of antimalarials are actually falsified. So the Fight the Fakes campaign consists of two main components. The first one is the social media component. So we are very active on Facebook, on Twitter. We have a website, and we publish stories about people that have been personally affected by falsified medicines. And we also have dedicated the first week of December, we have declared it the Fight the Fakes weeks. So that is heavily social media based. And the other aspect of the campaign is global health advocacy work we undertake. And in the past, we held events at the World Health Assembly in Geneva with our partners to raise awareness of the issue of falsified medicines on a global level. And the power of this campaign is built on collaboration with our partners, and then also its multiplier effect. And being part of this campaign means amplifying a voice that informs the public about the dangers of falsified medicines. And please visit our website, and if you're on Twitter, follow @FightTheFakes on Twitter. thank you again for the great discussions and presentations we had here today.
In Parliament, we dedicated much time to debate and to legislate on the Falsified Medicines Directive. And our main concern was to have a secure system for patients so that counterfeit medicines do not get into the system. Now it's up to member states to implement the Falsified Medicines Directive and to create a system that is generic, it's usable in every state, in every member state. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Oksana Pizik. I'm a Senior Teaching Fellow and Global Engagement Lead at the UCL School of Pharmacy. I'm here today with UCL Fight the Fakes. We are a partner of the Fight the Fakes campaign, and we are the first academic chapter of this wider group of pharmacy students and staff who are working to raise awareness about the growing global health threat of substandard and falsified medicines. We are here today at the European Parliament for a meeting on the Falsified Medicines Directive, and I'd like to thank MEP Jose Faria and Mike Eaasm, along with Laura, who have worked very hard in getting stakeholders together to discuss the Falsified Medicines Directive, which has already been implemented from February 9th. It was very interesting today to hear about some of the challenges in the implementation of the FMD by the frontline healthcare workers in hospital as well as in community. And coming from the UK perspective, certainly there could be more that we can do in terms of patient awareness to support the FMD, as well as why pharmacists should be backing this particular bill. On the whole, we know that it is possible, not even just in low and middle income countries, for substandard and falsified medicines to enter the legal supply chain. So today we heard from the Finnish representative that all three cases of falsified medicines were actually in the hospital sector. So this really debusts the myth that it's only in poorer countries that are vulnerable to this criminal activity, but actually, and in higher income countries, we're facing similar problems too. In addition to the hospital and community sectors, there's a growing problem with online pharmacies that are operating illegally, as Mike Eaasm referred to earlier. Much more needs to be done around pushing for the EU common logo on these sites, first of all, but we also have to work more closely with tech regulation firms around the propagation and sale of illegitimate medicines on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The algorithms in these particular platforms actually make it easier for these illicit medicines to be purchased. So tech regulation, patient education, and better imperatives from the higher education. So from my background also, in terms of educating the future pharmacists and the wider public about what needs to be done, and supporting our hospital pharmacists and community pharmacists in implementing the FMD. Thank you very much for inviting me here today in Brussels. I'm very honored to be part of this discussion, and I think there's much work to be done in the future around this issue. Once again, thank you.